Hey everyone, welcome back to PintheQ Podcast, special episode number 16. Lucky number 16. I don't know, I've heard that one other time before, but I know it's actually number 13 supposed to be the lucky number. But we are here in Hamilton, New Jersey, which is district number 9, with Aaron Heller. So, Aaron, thanks for coming on the show, bro.
Oh, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it,
man. This is good stuff. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So, tell us about where we're at.
We're in Hamilton, New Jersey, Mercer County, the capital county. This is Engine Company 19 in the actually the Groveville-Yardville section of the township. Fire District number 9.
And how big area is this you cover?
The first due district here is 11 square miles. The township itself is 44 square miles. And then this engine actually covers into mutual aid counties, into Burlington County and Monmouth County quite a bit. So we probably have the largest area that on the first alarm, maybe not first due, but absolutely on the first alarm throughout the area.
Oh wow! So I've been here since 9 o'clock, setting up and getting everything ready, and you've already been on. These guys have been 3 jobs already.
Yeah. Nothing too exciting, but they've been turning the wheels. Yeah.
Yeah, runs nonetheless.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, Aaron, tell me. Everyone that's watching this right now knows that they know who you are. I mean, you're a player in the scene. Everybody knows who you are. But why don't you tell me how it all started for you? How did you become a firefighter?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if about being a player is good, but anyway.
That's a good thing. In this industry,
it is a
good thing. It is a good thing.
No, everything that I'll talk about, man, I'm so blessed. I've been so lucky. I started as a junior member in a little volunteer fire company in Burlington County, a little place called Juliustown, Station 211 in Springfield Township. My sister married into a firefighting family, and I used to hang out there all the time.
That's awesome.
And they were taking in runs, and they weren't super busy, but they went to work. And they were like the best rescue company around. And my ex-brother-in-law and his brothers were real big extrication guys. Some of the Ocean County guys would know Kenny Flynn. Kenny was my ex-brother-in-law's brother, is my ex-brother-in-law's brother, and he was a big extrication guy in the area. So it was kind of cool at 14 years old. Child labor laws weren't exactly what they are today. And if they were, those guys didn't care.
Right.
So, I got to go out and do a lot of cool stuff with them. And my sister joined the fire department. So I said, I said, man, if she could do this, I got to be able to do it. And she went through the academy. And, I was more interested in playing baseball and chasing girls. But I always liked it and knew that it was something I was seriously interested in. And I lived in New Egypt, but they didn't have a junior program. In fact, they didn't start the junior program until probably 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So it was a cool thing to do. I thought, well, I'll see what it is.
Yeah.
And ever since then, my sister went on to become a dispatcher. She's been a 911 operator in Burlington County for 30-some years.
Wow.
She's actually getting ready to retire at the end of the year, so she really led me to it, and her family led me to it.
That's an interesting. That's interesting, man.
Yeah, and we're the only ones in our family that were firefighters. My uncle was a big buff. He was one of the chiefs of Signal 22 in Trenton, which is their canteen and buff unit.
Okay.
He used to buff up in New York at 69 Engine a lot, so he would always show us pictures and tell us stories and stuff. But
right.
It was never in my blood until I started with them.
So it's interesting at 14 when you come on, it's exactly the same time I did too, and it's at 14 you're getting introduced to the culture, and it was much different then.
Way different.
Much different then. So for me it was the early 90s, or very early 90s, like 89.
Yeah.
88, 89. So it was. I just know how much different it was when I first started. Like, hip boots, long coats.
Oh yeah. In
the
Juliustown,
elephant hose.
Oh
Scots,
yeah.
Steel bottles.
Yeah, absolutely, all of it. In Juliustown, the gear was on the rigs, and you didn't really have your own personal gear until, I was probably there 5 or 6 years before they actually got their own personal gear.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, you climbed on a rig, and you picked a helmet that was hooked to a leather strap and a dog clip. A coat was like kind of in the railing,
right?
And the boots were upside down in the railing.
Oh, in the racks.
Yeah. And that was in the rig itself, and that was it. And as a junior, if the seats were all full, I rode the hose bed.
No kidding.
Yeah, because the seats are full. That's senior guys get the seats, and kids ride up on the. So I have a lot of crazy rides in the country with those guys.
That's awesome. I remember when I first started, we used to ride the tail step on a Max, the old CF Max.
Oh, yeah.
And that was so much fun. And these poor kids today, they have no clue what that's like.
I don't know if it's
They're missing out.
I don't know if it was good or bad. You know, some days like this where it's nice out, it's not a bad thing. But you know, when it's 12 degrees out.
I remember tucking in.
You're trying to hide your head underneath a tarp. You know, that's how it was in New Egypt. When I went to New Egypt, we were riding the tailboards.
Right. But it's interesting how far we've come. Right.
We've come a long way. The culture is. It's there, but it's way different than what it was back then.
Definitely.
And but it's
definitely different.
It's funny. I've said for years, nobody from nowhere. It's like a Buffett song. I started in one of the smallest places ever. You know, when I turned 18, I moved to another place that's really not a big fancy place. Even working here for all the years I've been here, this isn't FDNY. It's not Philly. It's not Camden. But you go with what you got, and it's been good.
So. Tell me a little bit about the way you guys operate here in Hamilton Township.
So, by not getting myself in too deep a water in Hamilton Township, Hamilton it's a dynamic place. It really is. There's nothing that you have in most cities that we don't have somewhere in Hamilton Township. There's high-rises on the other side of town. There's country on this side of town. In the middle, there's typical bedroom community. You've got some really good areas of the hood where it's quite urbanized and it's pretty busy over there. So we kind of have it all.
Right.
As far as the way we operate, for years it was a 9 fire district system with actually Crosswicks being next door to us in Burlington County, having like, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 houses in Hamilton Township. They're the only split county fire district in the state. So the way we operated was really 9 separate municipal government entities.
Wow.
9 separate fire districts, and all really doing their own thing. We had no central command. We had no central bosses. I could go to a fire in District 6 or a fire in District 2, and in reality, they commanded it, but there was no way of dealing with us. And to this day, officially, there really isn't still. We're in the process of consolidation.
Okay.
And we're a busy place. Hamilton runs a lot of work. There's a lot of calls. This engine ran, I think, 1,400 or 1,500 last year. That's
a lot of runs.
It's not the fire factory, but it's busy. It's steady. So we're kind of a fragmented system. We have a big money budget. We have about 130 career guys right now, which we still feel is not quite enough. And the interesting thing here that's different than a lot of places, we saw, as a union, a need to get ourselves centralized. We saw that there's a far better way to spend the amount of money they're spending, and we could give the citizens a whole lot more than what we have given them in the past. And we pushed for consolidation, which most guys who have sweet contracts and in some firehouses have it pretty easy. Usually you don't, what they say, the 2 things in a fire service that we hate, change and the way it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but our union stepped up big. Local 84 and 284 of FMBA stepped up big and went out, got the petition signed, presented it to council. It's been like a 3-year process. We've had to be political at times. We've got another election coming up, so I'm sure it'll be political again. But we're on the right path, and our bosses have really embraced it, and it's good. And we all work together now. It's been, you go to a fire and you wouldn't know that we're not a fire department per se. The continuity of command has been really good. The guys working together. I mean, we still have our issues like every other job. Like, oh no, not those guys. They're not that platoon.
You're going to have that no matter where you go.
Yeah. But no, it's like I said. I've been blessed. When I came here, I was a 20-year-old kid. I got hired. My first day was April 19th of 1990 in this firehouse.
Wow.
So I'm coming up on the end of 29 and starting 30. Which,
Did you ever think you'd be there?
No.
Like when you started 20 years old, right?
No.
You just couldn't wait to be a firefighter. Now, looking back at all the time you've
it's a blink of an eye when you look at it and you think, man, where did the time go?
Right.
I talked to I was asked to talk to a group of recruits in Somerville, South Carolina. A couple weeks ago, I was down there and I posted on my Facebook. I checked into a bar actually, and the guy calls me. He's like, "Dude, you're in town. Would you mind coming to our probie school and talking to the probies?" I said, "No, it's what an honor, right?"
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I go over there and I never plan out what I'm going to say ever, which is usually
Just like this show.
Yeah, which is usually part of my problem, but it's got me in hot water more than once. But you know what I said to these kids? I was thinking about it. And some weren't kids, some were a little older, you know, just coming on a job. But I said to them, you know, if I could flick the switch and go back to being you in that yellow Proby shirt, I would do it right now.
Yeah.
I would start this all over again and do it right now to get back on the back step and just be wide-eyed and
taking it all in.
Yeah, and not be jaded, because as we get older in this job, you do get a little jaded.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
But I would never trade it for the world. I would go back. I would flip that switch. I'd get on the back step, and I would listen, because today, the young guys, young girls coming into this service they have so much more opportunity than what we had. And I'm sure the guys before me said, "Oh, look at these kids. They got so much more opportunity than I had," you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, it's fantastic. And working here, I really thought it was a stepping stone job. I said, I'll go to work in Hamilton, and then I'll take the Trenton test, or Camden, or Philly, or New York. And life changed for me, and I was making good money. And I thought, well, and I'd bought a house, and I was getting married, and I knew, you know, we were going to start a family at some point. And then it became, well, maybe this will get busier, maybe this will get better in Hamilton, and I'll just go with what I can do.
Right.
And I'm glad I stayed. It worked out fantastic.
And now you're a captain.
I'm a captain. I've been a captain for, I think I got made in like 2000, 2001, something like that officially. So I've had the right front seat a lot of years.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good. And then you've also, obviously, you told me you did some volunteer work, right?
I volunteered in New Egypt. When I turned 18, literally the day I turned 18, they signed me in. You know, you had to, back then you got sponsored into the fire company. And New Egypt is a fire department with a tremendous history. Over 100-year-old volunteer fire department.
That's over 100 years old.
Yeah, 1901 they started.
I didn't know that.
1901. They started with a horse-drawn ladder truck.
No kid.
That's it, yeah, and you know, and bucket brigade, I guess. And it was a great place. The town's still a great place to grow up. My mom still lives there. My family owns a business there. My ex-wife and my kids still live right around the corner from my mom.
Right.
So it's a good place. And I went in at 18, and a few of the dads whose kids I grew up with actually sponsored me into the fire company.
Oh, cool.
So these guys, I've known them since I was a little leaguer, you know. One of the guys who, you know, it's funny, now there's all this talk about mentoring and all this, and we're tagging it with everything. It's funny, I had a conversation last night with I was talking with Mike Champo, and Champ's a pretty well-known guy, but as salt of the earth and typical guy as you could ever find. And we were talking about about mentoring, and he said, you know, we had mentors when we were kids. We just didn't know what to call them. You know,
There was no labels.
Yeah, there was no labels.
Yeah.
And you didn't need labels.
Right.
It was a bunch of doing what you're supposed to do. It wasn't all the bullshit of today. But I did. I had some of these older guys, and they showed me the right way of doing it in the firehouse in New Egypt. And like one of the guys, and I try to say his name on anything I do publicly because he had a strong influence on me, was a guy named Steve LaChance. And in Ocean County, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, Steve LaChance was a friggin' legend because he was one salty, tough son of a gun. I mean, just tough. He was only about maybe 5'4", and you know, he already had the gray hair, and he was the military veteran from Vietnam, and he was one tough chief. And he wasn't afraid to tell anybody what he thought, and you knew where you stood in a whole bunch of four-letter words.
Yeah.
But you learned.
Yeah.
And this guy was tough, man. I mean, he'd crawl a hallway with the best of them. And I remember him yelling at me about making sure my pack was right and making sure my mask was right. And then looking next to me, and there he is.
Yeah, just breathing it in.
With a cigarette in his mouth, you know? Like, holy Christ. But yeah, so people like that, you know, New Egypt really produced some great leaders. And, you know, another guy, Rusty Arnold, he was the chief my second year in the company. Billy Wilkins was the chief my first year when I came in. And these guys, to this day, I think of things those guys told me when I was 18 years old.
Right.
You know, even before that, when we were at the ball field and they knew I was volunteering in Juliustown as a junior, and they kept saying, hey, when are you going to turn 18, you know, and you can come join here. We need some young guys. And there's still stuff that I teach in my classes today, just little pearls that those guys gave me.
Yeah.
And these guys were never big names on the job somewhere. They were never writing in the magazines. But their influence and their knowledge is what I put in the stuff that I do on a different scale.
Those are the things that I always say, that those are the priceless things that we have to offer. You know, just I can tell you when I remember too, being 14, 15, 16 years old, having guys, and we didn't call them mentors then.
Yeah, no.
Right? They were just guys.
They were the old guys.
Right.
They were the old guys.
The pain in the ass guys at the firehouse. But I remember certain things throughout my, adolescent years that they would tell me. And what was awesome was not only was I learning how to be a firefighter at that young age, but they were teaching me how to be a man and live into responsibility. To this day, I've always had a really good work ethic, and that started at the firehouse. That started with these guys. And I always think back, what if I didn't go that route? What if I wasn't around the firehouse? I mean, it was my whole family. It's been like that. So I knew I was destined to be a fireman. But had I not been around that, who knows where you'd be in life if you didn't have those people around you? Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's the same thing. You can always what if it. I went through a divorce. Lots of us have been there in the fire service. And what do? You what if the living daylights? What if I had done this different? What if I had done that? And there's plenty of things that you go, oh, why'd I do that? Or why didn't I do this? And it's the same thing. Everything happens for a reason, they say. My sister's a big one about that. Hey, my mom has this Yiddish term, beshert. It was beshert. It was to be. And so that's how I got to look at these things, But you're right, the work ethic. I was really, really blessed as a kid. I didn't see it at the time because I hated it. But my family actually owns the New Egypt Flea Market.
Okay.
And it's a big old flea market that my dad started in 1959.
1959.
Yeah, it's still family owned. My mom is 84 years old, I think now, 84.
God bless her.
Right, something like that. And Dad passed a year ago, but Mom's still running it. My brother-in-law still manages it. But that place, to this day, has taught me so many lessons. And I was a little kid. I was 9 years old. My dad was teaching me, how to run equipment, how to run a tractor, how to drive a truck, how to fix things, how to use torches, how to use band saws, hand tools, equipment. So before I ever got to the fire service, that work ethic was there because he didn't put up with anything.
Right.
I got backhanded more times, hardly ever in front of my mom, but boy, when we were out in the yard working, he was tough. He was the old military guy, and he didn't put up with it. And at the time, I hated it. But now I look at it and I go, I was so blessed to be raised by somebody like that. And he had no fire service background except when he was in the Navy. He told me that, in boot camp in the Navy, he was in during Korea. He said everybody was a fireman. And he goes, during that training, I knew damn well I didn't want to be a fireman. So
it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah. But
it's not for everybody.
Yeah. So it what it instilled in us, it instilled a lot of different things. And we met people from all over the world, my sister and I, and it led us to who we were going to be.
Absolutely.
And we were very, very fortunate. To this day, we're very fortunate that my mom is still around and a great influence on us.
Good for her.
Even, again, the personal issues that I've had in my life and the stupid shit that I've done, she was never afraid to tell me that it was stupid, but she was still always there to support me. And as a fireman, I know my dad didn't want me to become a fireman. When I joined New Egypt, he said to me, he goes, "What, you're going to go down there and join all the rest of the drunks?" Because they had a pretty bad reputation. They were good firemen, but they were hard chargers.
But that's one of those things that you talk about that. That was a huge part of our culture that's changed.
It was.
Because it was like that.
It was.
And that was the perception for many, many people. I still talk to people to this day that will say that to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you go to the firehouse and drink beer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, heart to heart, honest, that does not happen. We don't have any alcohol in the fire department.
Yeah, New Egypt's the same way now. I mean, I'm not real active there. I do still have gear on the rack, and I'm proud of that place.
They respect you. Let me just tell you, I just want to share this with you.
Yeah.
When I announced your show,
and
you were coming on, I can't tell you how many messages I got.
Oh, no kidding.
Really,
that's nice.
And a lot from New Egypt.
Yeah,
that's nice. We're like happy to see you. Can't wait to see your episodes.
That place molded me. It did. I mean, so you start as a kid, your parents do something for you, and they bring you up. That's where I probably did become more of a man than anywhere because, good, bad, or indifferent, you had all the influence from those guys. And some of those guys were great family men, great fathers, great husbands, You know, at times I was, at times I wasn't. But they brought you up. And that firehouse was very well respected for a long time. It still is. There's some damn good firemen in that building. Not too many guys I wouldn't want to crawl a hallway with in there. And it's funny, years ago, here, we got hired here. I was a paid driver. There were only 2 of us on duty. We didn't see as much fire as New Egypt, like we were talking about before.
Right, yeah.
So I was going to a lot of work back then. I was getting great experience as a young guy, getting a lot of nozzle time, doing some searches, getting on roofs. You know, it was all good. And they embraced me there. I was really, really lucky. And to this day, they are good. They train hard. They have their issues like everybody else. They're diminishing volunteers like everybody else.
Right.
So I went in there in 1987. Fall of 87, I started there. They had a real vacuum between young and old. And there was, again, nothing in between. And they were running out of leadership. And it was an issue. I worked for some great chiefs there, guys who I'm still friends with today. But I ended up becoming a very young captain there, way too young, you know. But it was the typical volunteer void where you needed somebody to fill it. I was going to college at Mercer County for fire science. I was working here. I was so into the job. I was single at the time, I was dating my future wife. But I was basically all I was doing was training. And I tell the young guys now, man, just go. Go before you have the kids. Go before you get married.
Because it gets more and more difficult.
It does, man. My training folder, if you looked at my file from probably the time I was 14 years old, literally, until I was about 25, it would be, this thick. And then as you got older,
it starts to line up.
Yeah, the years aren't getting as thick because you're you got the kids' soccer game, or the wife wants to go here, or you want to do this, or you got to work on the house, or whatever. So I tell these young guys now, man, just train your ass off now.
Yep.
Get that foundation, and the training opportunities are they're immeasurable.
It wasn't like it was for us. I mean,
what'd you have? You went to local academy for stuff, and then
you try to grab as many night classes as you can if you can get them.
Yeah.
But now it seems like you can go anywhere you want. Like I'm going to FDIC for the first time in 20 years.
I heard that place is pretty good.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. I know. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we definitely will. I've been going to FDIC.
But yeah, you're right. It wasn't like it was.
Yeah, this will be my. We're coming to 29. This will be like my 22nd year at FDIC.
Good for you.
Yeah, not at all as an instructor, obviously. I started as a student. I'll always be a student until the day I die. Probably I'll still be a student.
Any good person I've ever spoke to says that. You're never going to stop learning, right? Every day you go to work, it's something new. Every day it's a new challenge. Every day it's a new experience.
Yeah.
And then you learn from someone.
Yeah. That's what it is. But so I go back to New Egypt, and I ended up becoming a chief real young. Again, there was a void. I was the fire chief at 24 years old.
Yeah.
Not a good decision. I was married in October. I was elected fire chief in December. What a stupid move. If you go back in hindsight and you go, oh my God, what was I thinking, And it caused all kinds of stress. But I
talked to Sahatchin from South Wall. He said the same thing. He was a young chief at 24 years old, too. He was like way too young.
You don't know what you don't know. Right. The thing I did know, and the thing that was impressed on me by some of the older guys, by my dad, and then by guys who later would become my mentors, was there's a time to talk and there's a time to shut up. And I'm sure when I was young, I didn't know the difference. Some days I still don't know the difference. But it was hammered into you. And I was smart enough to know when it was time to listen to the right people. And I've had that, I guess, that good feeling. I know who I should be listening to. And then over the course of my career, that opened my doors. Being the chief there really opened my doors because I sent myself to training.
And you network.
I networked like crazy. I mean, that's why I'm where I am today is, honestly, FDIC in 1997. I'll never forget going there as a young chief. And a couple guys are like, you're going to wear that white helmet? And you're that young? They're going to tear you apart. I'm the chief. What do you want? Oh, take a spare helmet, bro. Don't take that helmet. And like, I'm too stupid to know better. I was too cocky. Oh, I'm the chief, I learned quickly they were probably right. But I met these guys, and it's not to name drop because that's not what this is about. But these guys became truly mentors, even though, again, we didn't know what that was. But they became my friends, and I became theirs, and we have been through hell and back together. you know, and it's easy to say them, you know, the first hot class I took there, and this goes to show some age, I guess, the young instructors, and these were the young up-and-coming instructors in 1997. It was Dave Gallagher from Huber Heights, Ohio. Now he's with the Massachusetts Fire Academy. It was Mike Champo, Lieutenant 45 Truck, writes the back page of Fire Engineering. A guy named Greg Einsfeld. Greg's retired from Rescue 3 after 9/11. He had to retire. Bobby Swick. Bobby, if you guys go online, you Google Bob Swick VES Rescue, you will see him doing a one-man VES, a one-man truck company, VES and rescuing a baby.
Wow.
And this guy had 30-some years on the job. I mean, I still talk to him when I get the chance. He's out in Fairborn, Ohio. But these were the guys, you know, and through that, I met Bob Pressler. He was running all the hot, and Lombardo and guys like that. These are the guys who are still today the leaders. And guys who are teaching today, a lot of them are getting their stuff from what these guys taught us 30 years ago almost, 25 years ago. And
it's funny, the job's changed, but it hasn't.
It hasn't. If you can't do what these guys taught us to do back then, if you can't force the door, you can't make the stretch, you can't run the nozzle the way you're supposed to, you can't throw ladders the way you should be throwing them, that part of the job has not changed. And I'll argue all day long, and I like to argue sometimes. So I'd argue all day long that these guys were the fathers of it for my generation. And like I said, they were the young up-and-comers.
Funny.
You know, and then at some point, I guess I became a young up-and-comer, and now I'm an old guy. But you've got to follow that path. And New Egypt started that whole path for me.
That's
so
great.
I will never, ever think otherwise. And like when I go to New Egypt all the time, I work out there. I know it doesn't really show, but otherwise I'd be 300 pounds. So, but the paid guys that are there now, you know, we went to a career staff there during the day.
Right.
And it was funny because all the interviews, when I was on the board of commissioners for 15 years after I got done being chief. So I was a chief officer for 10, the chief for 6 of those 10, and then I was commissioner, chairman, everything for 15.
So you have a pretty big footprint in New Egypt.
Yeah.
I think you're skating by that. I mean,
Yeah,
you got a pretty good hold.
I spent a lot of my life was spent in that firehouse.
That's
And
awesome.
it still is. Like I said, on my days off, I don't run a lot of runs with him. You know, I offered the chief, if you need me to do a drill for you once in a while, just give me a call. Every so often he will call me, you know. But they don't need everything that I bring anymore. They've got other guys. And it's hard to be that guy to step aside after you've done that. But for me, walking away was kind of forced. I went through a divorce. You know, when that happens, the sides get drawn up pretty quick. And she stayed in New Egypt, and I moved out of town. I actually lived here for a while in Hamilton. And now it's all good, and she and I talk all the time, and it's what it is. But it changed. So I still go back there all the time. I work out. I talk with the paid guys during the day. I still catch a company meeting here or there when I get the chance if I'm in town and nothing's going on a Thursday night.
And you know, I've met a couple of the New Egypt career staff doing it.
Yeah.
They're phenomenal. They're phenomenal.
There's
people.
some good guys in there. There is.
Good
The one thing that we impressed on them, at least when I was on the board, and I've been off now for like 4 years, but when I was on the board was, listen, you want to come work here, I get it. It doesn't pay well. It's probably a stepping stone fire department in reality because we're all looking for more work and more money. It's what we do.
Yeah.
And but you have to understand that this is a volunteer department supplemented by a career staff. You're not going to change that. The town can never afford you not to do that. So you have to go into that with that mindset. Guys who went in there, and there were a few who we hired, and then they went in and they were great for those 6 months, and then all of a sudden they wanted to change it, and they wanted this, and they wanted that. Bro, you got a lot of years there. You're not going to change certain things. You can make it better.
Right.
We don't want to be 100 years of tradition unimpeded by progress.
Yes.
But it's not going to just change because you want it to. And those guys wash themselves out, and they're gone. And the ones who get it. And
well, I can speak firsthand on that because I work for a combination department.
Yeah.
And we have those challenges where, and I tell the guys all the time, no matter what happens, we have to work well in the sandbox.
Yeah.
And we do. I mean, knock on wood, we have a pretty good setup, and everyone really does gel good together.
Right.
I mean, it's unfortunate that where we're at, the volunteers, it's tough. They're not. It's really tough. So they're trying. They're trying to do like a nighttime duty crew thing now,
Right.
which is good. They're trying.
We
right?
did that here for years, and in time, the requirements and the run volume and everything else just kind of sorted everybody out.
Right.
The other thing was here, the volunteer system became a feeder system for the career, which worked good. You don't want to say it's the minor leagues versus the major leagues, but it was our feeder system, and now a lot of the guys who started in Hamilton as volleys are on the job, and they're fantastic guys. So,
Are there any volunteer segments of Hamilton Township?
there are still some volunteers. All the volunteer fire companies actually still exist on paper.
Okay.
But they don't truly exist response-wise. So every district probably has a couple volunteers here or there, and some of those guys are still home run guys that they just work real jobs somewhere, and they couldn't afford to do what we do.
It's interesting. When I went to North Plainfield, I talked to Lieutenant Reedman.
Yeah.
That episode.
Yeah.
They have what they call Coleman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I had no idea what that was until we sat
Coleman.
and talked.
Coleman is common, like up in New England area. They call him Coleman too. Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
But so it's a good feeder system. But so I guess that's my New Egypt thing. Is I'm still proud of that place.
Yeah, good. Well, I like the fact that you don't forget your roots, man, and you stay humble. And
The guys who forget their roots got no world,
Absolutely.
no place in my world, because
Me neither. Believe me.
it's like forgetting your first baseball coach.
Yep.
That guy gave me the first batting stance. So when I was hitting home runs when I was older, he was hitting them with me, and that's the same. That's how I look at it.
I still remember every individual in my life that gave me that chance, that step, that try.
Sure.
And you can't forget those people, man.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
it's
man.
good. And like I said, man, my career is blessed because of that place. That place gave me the opportunity, and paid for the training, and sent me. I went to Illinois Fire Service Institute when I was still a chief in New Egypt, and that was a good thing. I could rubber stamp my own training, and they gave me plenty of money. So that firehouse, we trained like crazy, and we changed the culture, because there was a time where you did a couple drills a month, and then you drank a lot of beer, and then you cleaned the fire hall, and you washed rigs one night, and then you had meeting one night. And when I got in, I said, we need to train harder. And part of it was I saw my own flaws, and I was watching other guys, and I was reading every magazine, because we didn't have the internet then.
Right.
So,
it was Firehouse Magazine, Fire Engineering.
That's it. Fire Engineering Firehouse every month. You were excited when it came. And
I couldn't wait to open the magazine.
You're immediately ripping it open and reading everything, right? And I still do it. Like, I get the digital copies, but I still read the hard copy. And I fly all over the world now, and there's always Fire Engineering Magazine in my backpack, along with 2 or 3 books or whatever else. So, So I saw the need for the training, and we pushed and we pushed. And I went out to Illinois Fire Service Institute and did the Saving Our Own program, and it was the trainer stuff, and it was out of this world. I'm watching guys who I've read about, and I was standing there literally as some mid-20s kid in awe, and thinking, man, what would it take to be a fireman with that kind of skill? What would it take to be an instructor with that, to be at that level? And again, guys that were teaching out there, Bob and Ray Hoff. Bob Hoff was commissioner of Chicago later in life. Back then, I think he was a captain or a battalion. Ray ended up he was a battalion in the city in Chicago, and then ended up being a chief of another department. And there's things that I learned in their class that I put in my PowerPoints today, crediting them. One thing we talk about, bagging a fire. Where's the fire been? Where's the fire at? Where's the fire going? I learned that in the mid-'90s from Ray Hoff. So there's all these new, good, great guys, all newer guys out there teaching, and they're saying, oh, you should bag a fire. They don't even know where that came from.
Right.
Where'd
it come from?
Exactly. Right. Hey, you're going to bag a fire. Where'd you learn that? Yeah. Oh, somebody showed me it. Yeah. Ray showed me that. Ray Hoff showed me that in 1990, whatever. You know what I mean?
What's interesting about what you're saying is, you realize that you are now that guy that these young kids are looking at.
It's weird to accept it that way.
But you are, bro.
That's what they say, but I don't know. I still look at those other guys and go, oh, Rick's bagging it.
Believe me, people are used to that on my show.
Yeah.
64 degrees right now, man.
64 degrees. That's great. The bay doors are open.
I know,
it's lovely.
It's actually beautiful.
This is cool. So I went there and I watched those guys, and I learned that stuff, and I brought it home. And I wrote up some training programs for our guys, none of which said Aaron Heller founded this stuff. Oh, look what I discovered. This is where I went. This is what I learned. And it was kind of, I had that epiphany, that light bulb went on one day. Brian Brower is an educational director out there at University of Illinois, and not long after 9/11, Andy Frederick had been running their engine program out there. The Andy Frederick, and I knew Andy through Champo and through Greg Einsfeld and through Ray McCormick and those guys, because we were all kind of in that same group going to all the shows and stuff. And again, I wasn't teaching then. I was teaching locally at Ocean County before we even had an academy, when we were just doing it.
Oh, yeah, that's what I used to do.
We were doing it at firehouses.
That's what I used to do. Go to every different firehouse.
Yeah.
I remember going to Bayhead, going all over Mount Loken.
Yep. And that's so that's what we did. And so I get a phone call one day, and I don't know what year it was. At this point, it's probably 2003, 2004, and they said, "Listen, we're redoing the engine program, and the only East Coast guy we have in it right now is Larry Cohen from Fireground Technologies." And Larry's retired from Squad 18. Again, no question, his fire pedigree, no question. And they said, would you be interested in coming out and helping instruct in this program? And I was blown away. Like, I was kind of speechless.
To get that phone call.
Yeah.
That's the buy-in, man.
It was amazing to think that everything I had done on a smaller level got to that level. It was a great moment for me. So I did. I went out and I worked in their engine program for several years, and it was fantastic. And the people there were great. But to think that 10, 12 years before that, I was looking at these guys going, man, what's it take to be one of them?
Now you're standing up there.
Yeah, I'll never be one of them, but it was pretty cool. And so, like I said, everything comes in full circle. But it all started with New Egypt being able to send me to these places, and that's where I cut my, that's where I really learned things.
Yeah, you cut your teeth real young like that, and then next you know you're making progress, and you're affecting these young guys and young girls that are coming in there right now that need that push.
I hope so. I
need that drive.
I hope so. I mean, I love doing what I do. I'm at the point where I can retire any minute. I'm finishing up my 29th year in a couple of weeks, and everybody's saying, "Oh, when you going? When you going?" And I don't want to go.
You know what?
I love it.
The reality is, people go when they want to go.
Yeah.
When you're ready, you'll know when you're ready.
That's what they tell me.
Yeah.
That's what they tell me.
When you're ready.
I'm scared to death to retire. I mean, like, good God, what would I do without the chance to get on a fire truck all the time? I don't know. I don't think I'd be very good at it. But so it's been. But it all started there, and then this place has been a godsend because, again, I've worked for really good bosses. There's guys I didn't like. There's guys I didn't agree with. There's definitely guys I walked out of the room and went, yeah, screw him. But in the end, I learned something from all of them, the bad bosses and the good bosses. And that's where a lot of people don't want to do that. They want to, that guy's a jerk off. I'm not going to listen to him. Well, you know what? Take what he's doing, and you don't like that? Don't do that later. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, everyone has something to offer.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to buy into all of what they're saying.
Yep.
But there's going to be something that they say.
We had a boss here when I came on the job. He's actually the guy that called me and offered me the job. And he was a prick. He was a class 1 prick. Everybody that knows him would say it. He would tell you it. He was proud of it. But outside of here, he was one of the best people I've known in my life. He would your hot water heater broke, that man would be there fixing it at 2 in the morning and not charge you a nickel. In the middle of the night, he would show up here at 3 in the morning with a pizza. Now, he was showing up at 3 in the morning to catch you sleeping at the watch desk. But if you weren't sleeping, you got the pizza. Yeah. So, again, I've worked for really good bosses here. My chief here, and it's not because I got to kiss his ass, because at this point in my career, I probably don't have to. But he's been beyond fair with all of us. Smart, understands what the job's about. Sometimes is stuck in his office too much and hates it. But these are the kind of people you want to be associated with. And for the young guys out there, even working for a bad boss, you got to take something from that. Mm-hmm. And as you grow, I'm not going to be that guy. A good friend of mine is down in, he's a chief of Bayou Cane, Louisiana. And I went down there to teach, and we ended up becoming friends. And I've been doing work in Louisiana now for like 6 or 7 years. And this guy's named Ken Emil.
Do you have crawfish?
I've had crawfish. I'm not a huge crawfish guy. Maybe a little etouffee, but I'm not popping the heads and no. That's not my thing.
I had to ask.
I love boils though. Those guys do boils for us. I'm going down there next week. I can't wait.
That's awesome.
But Ken does a class called "Don't Be That Guy," and
I love the title.
I'm telling you, and he went through being that guy as a young, cocky, aggressive guy who probably pissed a lot of people off and didn't do it the right way, to now, I think, leading one of the premier fire departments in their state and moving up through the state ranks in a lot of different things. And I don't want to be that guy.
When you look in the mirror, though,
Yeah.
and really do a self-evaluation and realize you're being not the person you want to be,
Yeah.
that's a good thing, man. And it's not easy. Some people can't do that.
Bro, it's hard. I've had to do it a lot of times in my life.
Me too.
You know, I mean,
me too, actually. Me too.
In the fire service, in my personal life, you know, there are times where you screw shit up really bad because you've made bad decisions, and you got to reevaluate. And I know people say, "Oh, well, there was a time where I changed my life." Well, there's got to be a time where you changed lots of things in your life throughout time. At least in my book.
Yeah,
and
small adjustments, right?
Yeah. I've had to make some big ones and some small ones.
Yeah,
but,
me too, bud.
But
me too.
yeah, you know, you hit the pits of this job is not forgiving.
No, it's not.
And everybody that says it doesn't affect them personally is full of shit. You know.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that leads me into my next question, and that is
shoot.
That is, you know, look, with the amount of time we each have, you know, there's things that, you know, you wish your mind could forget the things you saw.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So, is there anything that you can tell me that impacted you, something that you brought home, something that you really had to work on?
You know, it's funny. I don't have the same experiences as I hear other guys. A lot of guys will say, I went to this fire and it really messed me up. Or I went to this car wreck and there was people with guts hanging out and it really messed me up. I don't have that I know. Maybe I've buried it in some recess of my mind. And I've tried to think a lot about this with all the mental health stuff going on today. And I'm not ashamed to say that I've seen counselors over the course of my career, more personal than professional, honestly. But I've done it, and I think it's been helpful to me.
Right, bro. But if you're not right outside the firehouse, you're never going to be right inside the firehouse.
It's true. It's true. I can tell you, when I first started going through my divorce, I was crushed. I thought I was going to lose my kids. I thought they would never talk to me again. You know, it was enough that I was losing somebody who I had grown up with and really loved. You know, that part of it, I took 2 weeks off from the job because I said I can't lead my men if my head's up my ass, and my head was way up my ass. Yeah. And the chief said, "No, I understand. That's sick time. You need sick time because you're sick right now." And I did. So I don't know that I have the call that did it to me or that has done it to me.
The thing is, it's not the call, bro.
It's the pile of the calls, right? And it's when the box overflows.
Right.
And if you get a chance to see Stevie Gillespie, Steve's a retired lieutenant from the FDNY, and he does a thing called Surviving the Fire Service or Surviving Your Fire Career or something like that. And he just did it recently again, and it's when the box starts to overflow. I've never truly, knock on wood, felt like my box completely overflowed, especially from the job.
That's good. I mean, that's good.
I don't know why that is. Like, sometimes that's concerning. You know, I was actually talking to a friend who's a counselor that I met recently, and she said that to me. I said, yeah, the box hasn't overflowed yet, you know, but everybody has a different perspective on things. You know, I don't have that perspective of, I didn't cause the emergency, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
You know, that's some of the bullshit that's being spewed out there today.
Anybody who's saying that, they're the ones that really are having problems.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just not going to tell anybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, that person's emergency is my problem because I'm the one who's supposed to help fix it.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what I'm going to do.
That's our job.
Yeah.
That's what we signed up for.
Yeah. When they pin the badge to you, you took away the volunteer part, paid or volunteer.
Right. It doesn't matter, right?
It doesn't matter. At that point, the minute you took the oath, as Chief Croker said in 1911 or whatever it was, you know, that was the most noble thing to do. And then from there out, everything else you do is really, it's part of your job. But, so yeah, I don't think I've had the call. I've had some bad calls. There's definitely some things I could tell you. One that sticks in my brain was when I was 18, about maybe a week or two after I graduated high school, in New Egypt. Came in as a car accident on Colliers Mills Road. A guy hit a tree, came in as vehicle fire, victim trapped, pulled up, and the chief said, put the body out before the car. Like, whoa. And there was a body in the street burning, and the car was fully involved, in a tree and a field, and all, it was a mess, you know. And the trooper said, would anybody know if this body is this person? And the chief came to me, and he goes, is this? And I said, oh, my God, it was a kid I grew up with, played ball with, graduated high school with a week before, and he had committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
And it was him. And seeing his dad come out and ID him by his shoes, I could smell that one, I can see that one, I could taste that one. It's just what it is.
100%.
But it doesn't, but it's never once changed what I do, you know, that I know of. You know, so there's lots of them. I mean,
how do you feel you processed that, though, at the time?
I don't know. Because back then I didn't drink, so, or at least not legally. So, so I don't know, you know.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting to you, though, that and this is why I love like picking guys' brains, especially guys like you.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting that we can do, because I've been in the same situation, right? So that we can do that, get in the truck, and just go off to the next assignment, go back to the firehouse, do whatever you have to do, go home.
That's what we do.
Right?
I don't know that everybody can do that, but
right.
I've good, bad, or indifferent. That's what it's always been. So I really don't know. Like, I'm not good at this. You know, there's lots of people out there giving all these different coping skills and this and that.
Right.
That's left for them. I teach fire tactics because that's what I'm good at. I don't know that other stuff. I just, like, somebody asks you, well, how do you do this? Oh, it beats the shit out of me. I just do it. Yeah.
You just do it, right?
Yeah. So it's like, I've had people say that about the training company. Well, you guys do this and you're all over the place, and how do you do that? And there's times where I look at it and I don't really know. I just do it. It's just what we do, you know. And
so, all right. So, what advice? I'll pose it to you this way.
Yeah.
What advice, as a senior man, would you have to this brand new firefighter watching right now, saying, "Oh man, how should I deal with something like that if I do run into a classmate?" Sure.
You got to, number one, you go to the senior people in the job, and you make sure that there's help available for yourself. If you feel it at all, you got to go get help. You know, we know that mental health is a major issue in our world today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But there's great help out there. So there's programs all over the country.
Light years ahead of what we had.
Yeah. There's programs all over the country. I mean, here we have EAP. We have employee assistance. I've used it. It works. You can't be afraid, and you can't be shy, and you can't hide it. You know, you don't have to share it with the world.
Right.
But you got to address it, or it will get to you. If it's getting to you now, it's going to get to you later.
Yeah, and I think, like what you said before, you just stow it away. That's a great thing to say, because that's what happens.
We do, man. You put it in a box, and at some point, the lid on that box starts lifting, and that's when bad things start to happen.
Yeah, no doubt.
But again, I'm fortunate because I've got this group of guys around me, and that I associate with, that are so good and so much smarter than I am, and you surround yourself with good people. You get to share things. There's things that I've shared with those guys. The on-scene instructor group that I've got, that's really my support staff. I mean, they really, that's everything about it. But if I were a young guy and I had problems, go to your senior man, go to your boss, you know, go to a chaplain, go to somebody who you have faith in that would help you, and you got to share it. You know?
Good. And don't bury it. That's the important thing. Don't bury it.
Those days are over. The old days of a tough guy, you know, swallow it. This is what you're going to see. Get on with your life. Don't be a wimp, or worse. You know.
Yeah, because
those days are gone.
When you come on initially, volunteer or not, you know, for me it was volunteer when I first started. They say to you, like, if you can't handle this, you know, you need to reevaluate if doing this. Yeah. You know, and I think that was the wrong message. You know? It should have been more like now it's let's talk about it. Yeah. I'm not saying it's clinical, like it's reaching to the point of clinical where you need to put you in the hospital. Right. But Jesus Christ, let's at least talk about it. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I think the only difference is if you can't handle things emotionally, that's one thing. If you can't handle the skills, get out.
That's different.
Get out. McDonald's is always hiring, man.
I'm not talking about skills, and I'll make that very clear. Because the reason the skills have to be there is because everyone else in here is depending on you. Exactly. And we can't just have a weak link on the chain because they're nice people.
And we're allowing it.
I know.
We're allowing it all over the country. We're allowing it because we don't want to step on toes, or because...
Especially now, today's climate, right? You know, you don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah, there comes a point where you need to be offended. Yeah. It's time. You got to... Well, you shouldn't be offended, but you should be able to say it to somebody. Yeah. And that person shouldn't be offended by it. Hey, listen, this job ain't for everybody.
Yeah, I hear. I mean, as you know, I'm sure you can imagine with this, I get to talk to a lot of different people,
Sure,
and I'm
yeah.
hearing nightmare stories, right?
Oh, they're all over.
So yeah. So which leads me into my very next part, and man,
Yeah.
now let's talk about your training company.
Training company is
First
huge.
of all, tell everybody who you are.
So
in
yeah,
case
so
they're-
the training company is On Scene Training Associates. We're not one of the new pop-up training companies.
yeah, a lot of those.
They're everywhere,
Yeah,
man. Everybody that's crawled a hallway for 3 years all of a sudden is an expert and can train, which is a shame because there's some really great training companies out there, and guys who have cut their teeth before they ever decided, hey, I'm a training company. They taught at local academies. They did their drill classes in the firehouse, and then they said, hey, I have something to offer. And they didn't say, I have everything to offer. Because me personally, you got to stay in your lane, right?
I love that
I don't-
saying. That's one of my, you know, that's one of my favorite sayings.
It's true. I don't work.
I love that.
I don't work in a place where I feel that my tech rescue skills are fantastic, right? I can do it. I'm on a SOC team. I can tie my knots. I can set up rigging, but I shouldn't be the guy teaching it. We have guys out there today that are running training companies, that are doing whatever, even working at academies or whatever. They can do it all. You tell them, hey, we're doing, we're going to be rappelling off the side of the tower today. Can you teach that class? Oh yeah, I can do that. No problem. Oh, and tomorrow we're going to be teaching rapid intervention. Bringing guys out of basements. Oh yeah, I got that too. Oh, and by the way, next week we're going to be doing, portable ladders or tower ladder operations. Yeah, I can do that. Funny because you work on an engine, Like me, we did a tower ladder class for On Scene in Barry City, Vermont this past summer. So easily for the money, I could have said, yeah, I could teach that myself with one other guy and then not have to pay somebody, right? But that ain't the way to do it because
Right.
I work on an engine.
Right.
In New Egypt, I rode on a straight stick all those years.
Yeah.
I should not be the guy that's a lead. Do I know how to do it? Yeah. But I shouldn't. That's not my lane.
But you know what? That's
That's me running in the left lane when I probably should be in the middle or the right.
what's so great about it.
Yeah.
That's so great about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And guys like Bobby Eckert, right?
Yeah.
So
same
Bobby
thing.
Eckert, the captain of Camden,
Sure.
he's an engine guy.
Right.
His class is about engine work,
And
he's phenomenal.
And he stays where he should be.
stays
And,
in his
and
lane.
it's not that Bobby doesn't know truck work, because
Well,
I'm
he
sure he
does.
details
I
to the
told-
truck and knows it
I
inside
talked to
out.
him. He knows the truck, but
Right.
he told me, he's like, this is my passion. Like,
Right.
The engine work
Exactly.
is my passion. And
Exactly.
so I love guys, and I appreciate guys that do stay in their lane.
Yeah,
That's
so,
one of my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, we went
say.
to Vermont. It was a tower ladder class, and I took Matt Paglione. Matt's a FDNY guy, rides 27 truck in the city, but has lots of tower ladder operation experience. And a guy named Bert Davis, who retired as a lieutenant in Worcester.
Okay.
Did 30 years in Worcester.
Wow.
A lot of fires in that
Oh, I
city.
know. That's no joke. That's no joke.
And so those guys ran the class. I coordinated,
Yeah.
and that's how it's supposed to be. We're not Facebook guys.
Oh, you did it
Pop
now.
that
Now
thing
you
off
broke
there.
it.
I'll
Now
hold
now
it, I
you really-
guess.
now-
Yeah.
Now you
Fix
did
me.
it. See, this is how cool this show is.
Yeah, we're so technical.
This is high speed right here. When you got to fix microphones, that's when you know you've literally made it. Now,
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no makeup though. We don't do
Yeah,
makeup.
no makeup. So I mean, that's the problem. I was looking at social media before we came on. I keep up on social media now, not so much only to hype On Scene training, but to see what all these other guys are doing, because unfortunately, they're spewing so much bullshit out there. And guys are throwing out a post on Instagram or on Facebook or tweeting it out. And it's just to get mouse clicks. It's just to get likes. It's just to get Facebook famous or whatever the hell you want to call it.
Right.
And it's all bullshit. And then it creates all this other bullshit. And it goes on and on and on. And I'm afraid that's the future of this, which sucks.
You know what scares me is if you don't know any better, especially if you're brand new, and you're looking on YouTube and you go,
it's
this
tough.
looks legit, and then you take that class and you're getting really bad information.
Yeah. I was at a class this weekend. I went to New England Fools do a winter summit, Northeastern Fire Summit every year. And I've taught at it at times, but this year I wasn't teaching. I had no adult responsibilities. Some of my guys were teaching, so I wanted to see them. But Steve Robertson is a lieutenant from Columbus, Ohio. And this guy's smart. He's an engine guy through and through, works in a ghetto engine. Great guy, right? And he was talking about different hose loads and talking about one of them was the Cleveland load. And all of a sudden the Cleveland load, oh, this is a great load. Oh, yeah, I can use this. And every guy around, oh, yeah, I want it. Well, try that load yourself and see if it really works. Because that's a forestry load. It wasn't a Cleveland Fire Department load. It's a forestry load. It works on three-quarter inch
triple fold,
right.
Minuteman. I mean, it goes on.
But the point of it was these guys saw it on the internet,
right?
oh, now I'm going to use this because it's internet famous.
Is it practical?
It doesn't even work in your. We tried it here just to test it to see what everybody was trying.
Mm-hmm.
We turned ourselves in pretzels and had kinks everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and our guys are experienced. They know what they're doing with hose loads. So that's my point of this is if you can't vet it,
right,
there's a problem.
Oh, absolutely.
And when we read Fire Engineering Magazine 25 years ago, you knew what you were getting was fact.
And we were actually reading articles.
Oh, yeah. And you knew, but you knew what you were getting was time-tested fact by somebody who did it. Not a guy who fought a fire in a couple trailer parks and now all of a sudden has a web page or has this. And nothing against fighting fires in trailer parks. I've done lots of it. Mm-hmm. But my point being, don't tell me how to stretch a line where I work if you've only stretched line in this environment. Well, you know what I mean? You got to have a varied background if you're going to do it. Otherwise, good example. There's a guy, Joe Polenzani from down in Franklin, Tennessee. Awesome guy, right? Taught with us at FDIC, smart dude. Joe teaches a class at FDIC, and the only reason I bring it up is because I just made a joke about the trailer parks, right? About fighting mobile home fires. It's a different animal, right? But he specialized in it because he had a lot of them. He saw a need, but he stayed in that lane. And there again, I took his class years ago and said, wow, that's great. I learned some stuff.
Yeah.
But he's not teaching me how to do high-rise ops.
Right.
He's not trying to do everything. And that's what these guys, I feel for the young guys trying to vet stuff out because it's hard to figure out who's full of shit and who's really proper.
That's the advice I'll give is that if you are looking for training companies, if you're looking for people that are going to come in and maybe do consultant work,
sure,
make sure you vet it.
Yeah.
Make sure you really do your homework. I mean, now with the internet, it's easy to figure people out.
It is. You can look at them and start looking guys up, and you'll see if they're bullshit or not. You know, these guys that have 3-4 years, nothing against them, but they shouldn't be out doing that.
I appreciate the passion.
Yeah,
right? I appreciate
absolutely.
the passion and the fact that they want to help others. Yep. But and this is just my personal opinion, so I'm sure I'll get the hate mail. But my personal opinion is you shouldn't even be thinking about training anybody, right, in the fire service until you have at least 5 to 7 years, is my opinion. 5 to 7 years, 10 would be the optimal time. Like you got 10 years on, that's when you're like, okay, I got 10 years on, I think I have something to offer.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a time limit you could put on it.
And again, that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, and it's cool, Frank. It is.
4 years, I don't know.
You haven't seen, even if you're working in a busy place, you can teach how you do it in that busy place.
Right, sure.
So if you worked in, I don't know, Gary, Indiana, and they catch a ton of work, right? You can teach how Gary does it, even if you only got 3 or 4 years, because you have gone to a lot of work. But don't teach me how I should do it in Hamilton, New Jersey, because the Gary way may not work in Hamilton. So everybody's talking now, well, it's experience versus years, and I agree. Guy can have 25 years of nothing.
Absolutely.
Or somebody had it online the other day, 25 years of day one. Right. It's still 25 years of day one.
100%.
And they're right. They're absolutely right. So years, and I mean, I don't work in the busiest firehouse in the country. So yeah, I got almost 30 years here. I work a 4-platoon system. I don't catch every run. I don't catch every fire.
Right.
And the guys who say that, oh yeah, I work in a place that we do 3,000 runs. You're right. And
how many are you doing?
How many did you do? Yeah. Right. How many were you out sick for? How many of the fires were actually on A platoon versus C platoon? You know,
Captain Freeman, Passaic. You know,
another tremendous fireman.
Oh, he's the best. Yeah. When I got talking to him, he said that right in the interview. He said to me, he goes, "Look, you know, the whole stigma thing, you know, career versus volunteer and all that." Yep. He goes, "I know volunteers that are 24/7 catching work. Yeah. Whereas when you get off your 24, you're done.
Yep.
Go home.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, Mount Penn, Pennsylvania, up in Berks County. They go to fires like crazy. That Reading area, city of Reading, they got some tremendous firemen up there. They do a lot of work. The guys at Mount Penn, it's all volunteer firehouse. But there's officers there and firemen there that'll catch 60, 70 working jobs a year. Oof. Because they go to everybody's fire.
That's a lot of work.
They go to everybody's fire, and these guys are volunteers. They can leave work. They live in the firehouse damn near. And they're catching work. So anybody that says, "Oh, well, it's a volunteer place in a little town," I don't disregard that. Yeah, I don't disregard that.
Homework, man. I mean, that's what I would say.
Yeah. So with On Scene, I'm blessed. We travel around the world. We've been literally all over the world.
Wow.
I mean, I just sent proposals out to go back overseas again this summer. Probably 2 trips overseas. We've been to Vietnam. We've been to a bunch of U.S. territories, and it's been great. But you still got to understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, and the people you meet. You've got to have the utmost respect for everybody you encounter. You will have shitty students. You will meet shitty people. You will meet some of the best people in the world, and you have to keep it all into perspective, because the shitty student needs you more than the superstar student, and you want to see that light bulb go off over their head at some point. So you've got to work at that, and you can't disregard one for the other. And that's something that I never thought that we had a mantra or a philosophy, but we do. We just never really wrote it down, I guess. My buddy E.J. Mascara was a North Charleston fireman, superhero guy. I mean, just military, Bronze Star, Purple Hearts, hardest hit unit in Iraq, in the Army. I mean, this guy was the real deal. So EJ was one of our instructors. He came up we met him when we were teaching the Charleston Fire Department, which was kind of cool. We get asked to go teach Charleston after the sofa store fire.
Oh, wow.
On commercial fireground ops.
Wow.
Scary stuff.
Well, that must have been going into that. You must have really been, really make sure everything was on point.
Yeah, I was nervous about it,
Yeah.
And On Scene wasn't a new company, but we weren't an older company either.
Did you found the company?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. My ex-wife said, "Hey, you're doing all this training. I don't want to get sued. You better form an LLC because you're bound to screw up."
Yeah.
She had a lot of faith in me. So some things don't change. So we did. Yeah, I founded it in 2005.
Okay.
2005, 2004, 2004. Yeah, 2004, something like that. So anyway,
a lot of responsibility, man. Getting called that call.
Yeah. And we went, and we took 9 of us, I think it was, and we actually stayed in one of the chief's houses on the beach, and we trained every day with every platoon. And we met EJ, and EJ was this hungry young fireman, and just he wouldn't stop asking questions. At some point, it was like, dude, land the plane,
Yeah.
But we all hit it off, and after a while, he'd be like, "Hey, can I come? When you guys are training somewhere, you mind if I come just to learn? And I'll carry your bags. I'll sleep on the floor, and I'm not asking you to buy my beer. That kind of thing."
That's awesome, man.
And he was that kid, and
Hungry, man.
Oh my God, he's like nobody I ever met in my life. And in reality, I expected him to one day take over On Scene, because he started teaching for us, and he was fantastic, and he was starting to understand the business end of it a little bit. And he was killed in a car wreck a couple years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's one of the most emotional points in most of the guys from On Scene in our lives. Honestly, I mean, it was just like losing EJ. It's just, I got a tattoo that's my EJ tattoo, and I put it there so I would always see it.
That's awesome,
It's just, and we've lost other friends too. But the point, his mantra was, we came
wearing
here.
a shirt.
Yeah, he's on. This was our FDIC instructor shirt last year.
Wow.
So we wanted to do that for him.
That's nice, man.
Yeah, but so his whole thing was, we came here as firefighters and friends. We leave here as family. Whenever we went and can't make it up. You really can't make this shit up. So anyway, you leave here as family, because once wasn't enough. So anyway.
Now, I should cut this out and just do a blooper reel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you realize this is what makes my show so awesome.
Well, it's real. You can tell. It's not dumb.
If anybody ever thought that this stuff was scripted, man.
Yeah, it's that.
You can prove it's not.
That old commercial, is it live or Memorex? And it's live. But that was the thing. And the thing with On Scene that makes us a little different than other training companies too is, these are long-term friendships and kind of family things that happen with our company. Like, we're going to Louisiana. I've got 7 of us going to Louisiana for 8 days or 10 days. 2 guys flew in today, and then a bunch of us are going in later in the week, next week. So, we talk about the family stuff. Like, we go there. Louisiana's a good example. We go down there, and we've made such good ties with these guys that to save money for them, they put us up in camp houses.
Wow.
And it's better for us. So there's 7 to 9 instructors normally going on these trips, and we stay in a house together. We cook together. It's almost like
being
living in a firehouse.
Yeah.
And the cool thing for me is the On Scene instructors are from all over the country.
Cool.
So like this trip going to Louisiana, there's 2 guys from Florida, a guy from Montgomery County, Maryland, 3 of us from Jersey. I'm not even sure who else. Let me think about that. You know, there was going to be a guy from Chicago. He just had to bail because he's got a big birthday party for his dad. But so we mix it up a lot. And for us, another guy from South Carolina coming. So for us, it's really cool because we get to trade fire info, fire stories, stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from them. Like, that's, again, you want to talk about why you're good at your job and what you've learned in your career. It's from hanging out and having those talks.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You know, so I mean, one of the first times I went down there, it was me and Billy Hobson. Billy's from Beachwood.
Oh, I know Billy.
You know Billy, right?
Oh, God, I know him well.
He retired from Ocean County Fire Marshal's office.
Yep.
And Billy and I were teaching at Bayou Cane. And it was the first time we had done anything in Louisiana. Kitty Fire Trainers had hired us. Went down there, did the training, and they had a blue door, Firehouse Innovations door sitting there. And it was brand new. It was still in the wrapping.
Oh, wow.
So what are you doing with that? And the guys were like, well, we just got it. We don't really know much about it. I said, well, why don't we do something with it? You know? We can force some doors, you know? And the chief said, I don't have any more money for, training. I said, no.
Yeah,
this ain't about money, bro. I said, I'm not supposed to go back. We're going to go stay in New Orleans for a night tomorrow night. So we were just going to drive back up. And he said, well, what do you want to do? So Billy said to him, he said, why don't we put the door together and let's force some doors? And the chief they were kind of blown away.
Yeah.
And so we did. Billy and I stayed there and we taught forcible entry for hours. And we had a ball,
Yeah.
And they had never, and forcible entry was kind of a new theory to some of those guys. And, showing them how to use their irons and maybe you should tune your irons up. And, hey, that 3-piece Zyko iron is a piece of shit and you need some good fire hook stuff here, and get some pro bars. And we did it. And I think they saw that we were real and we weren't there just to make a buck and blow out of town and go to New Orleans to party, which we might have done afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
But,
well, that all goes with it.
Yeah, that's hand in hand. But the point of it was they saw that we were for real. We weren't there to just take their money. And
right. Well, that's I always say I should coin the phrase with a buy-in. Like you have to have that. If you don't have that, then what's your actual mission?
Yep.
And
And
that's good.
And that is. It goes back to that we're part of you type mentality. And like I said, we're really lucky. I think there's a few training companies out there who are just head and shoulders above the others. I like to think that we're somewhere in the middle. I think we do it right. I know we do it right, just from the feedback we get. Everybody that teaches for on scene is experienced. They've been there. They've done something.
They have something to offer.
Yeah, they may not be experienced in every aspect of the. A couple of the FDNY guys are not rural firemen.
Right.
But then there's a couple guys who worked in the woods, and they can teach that part
that's
of
good.
it.
It's
so, yeah,
it's diverse. You can change it up.
It's a really diverse group. There's like 20 to 30 guys that I use. And
so tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
You can look us up at onscenetraining.com. The website's actually in revision right now. The old one is still up, but there's a new one coming hopefully in the next month or so. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We do all of it.
Right.
You can always hit me up on my Facebook, personal Facebook. Unfortunately, we live by social media.
I know. You really do, man. You're almost like married to the phone anymore. It's bad.
It's good and bad. Yeah, it really is.
But like you said earlier, man, you have to. You have to.
Yeah. Well, it's like doing podcasts, honestly.
Yeah.
My kid is a Barstool podcast fanatic.
Oh, yeah, that's a pizza guy, right?
Yeah. He listens to Barstool Sports all the time,
Yeah.
and some of it's really good stuff. It's funny as hell.
Yeah.
But I was always busting his balls about it. Oh man, what are you with these podcasts? I knew nothing. Yeah, I knew nothing about it, right? And then Jeremy asked me to be on theirs, and then and then we talked. You and I talked, and so my kid's like, "Oh, I thought these podcasts were stupid, Dad."
That's why you have to be careful what you say.
You know what, man? I'm learning. I'm old, but I'm learning.
That's
so,
awesome.
but yeah, so it's been good. It's a blessing.
Man.
It's the whole job is a blessing, and the people we get to meet. Like I said, even the ones you don't necessarily agree with or like, you can learn from them. There's guys, I read some of their stuff online. There's one guy in particular, I read some of the stuff he posted, and I didn't like it at all. And I told a friend who's a friend of his, and that guy reached out to me. And he said, hey, I didn't mean it that way. I said, well, that's how thousands of people are perceiving it.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I said, you obviously are a smart guy. You know some stuff. But you have to understand, when you put it out on social media,
it's there forever.
And thousands of people are seeing it, and they're going to perceive it a certain way. You have to understand, you have influence now. Like you with PintheQ, you have influence because people are watching you Whereas years ago, unless I wrote it in the magazine, they didn't see what I did.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that kind of that sphere of influence that you now have. And I think these guys who are online, that's really important to understand that you got a voice, whether you think you do or you don't.
Yeah.
Even whether you should or you shouldn't, you got one.
And that's why it's important for me to have guests like yourself, guys and girls that can come on and give real world experience and talk about real issues.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And it was an honor to have you on the show, honestly. And it's and I know you've been on other platforms, and that's great. And it's good that the information that you're getting out to these young guys and girls, it's important, man. I wish I had this growing up. But,
I do too. I do too. I wish I was, like I said, lucky the people that influenced me. But I wish I had what they have today. Again, I'd flick the switch, I'd go right back. What
advice would you give to a brand new firefighter, either existing firefighter or someone looking to get into this, whether volunteer or career? What message do you have for them?
First things first, I think you got to keep your nose clean. You got to stay as close to out of trouble as you can if you're a young guy. If you're an older guy, be very careful. Be careful with your social media, because there are things coming down the pipe that I just read this morning, and some other things. You got to be cautious with what you do and what you put out there, and be humble. Yes. There's nothing wrong with being a little cocky. I wrote an article.
Cocky versus confidence. There's
a difference. I wrote an article called "The Ego-Driven Firefighter," and I was that guy at some point. I'm sure I was. And there's days where your ego still gets a hold of you, but you want a little edge. I want guys that have a little chip on their shoulder to a point. But I don't want them to have an asshole chip on their shoulder, and we see that. So keep some humility. Understand that even the junior guy can teach me, the senior guy, something. Yeah. And I can tell you, the crew working today, 2 guys in the back seat, Eric DeVito, one of them. There's things I learned from that guy, and he's probably 20 years younger than me, almost. Something like that. So I say stay humble. I would say soak in all that you can soak in. Know when to keep your mouth shut and your ears open, right? Yeah. My old man always told me that. You got one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. So that, and pick a mentor or whatever you want to call them. Pick somebody you respect, somebody you see. And it doesn't have to be somebody in your firehouse. It could be somebody else that you meet at a conference and you just stay in touch with them. That's how I built my career, honestly. I met the right people, talked to them, showed them respect, but didn't kiss their ass either. Right, oh my God, you're the greatest. Don't bow to them. Yeah. But and pick their brains.
It's funny you mentioned that, because Corwin is a senior man in Jersey City, Engine 7. And when I talked to him, I interviewed him, and you know what he told me? He's like, I got a lot of time on. I've got a good experience, but I'm learning from these new guys every day.
Yeah.
You're right, and you just said it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's something to be learned from everybody, and stuff to be shared, and so yeah, I mean, just listen up, do the right thing, help out when you're asked to help out when you're not asked to help out, step up. Right. There's great people throughout. Again, you've interviewed so many great guys. You interviewed Aldrich and Gabriel. I mean, guys who I have tremendous respect for and enjoy working with, and now are my friends. Pick out these kind of people in your area, or when you go to a conference. I sat at a conference in New England, and afterwards we're having beers at a local pub, and I'm sitting there with Chris Tobin from St. Louis. He's a rescue guy from St. Louis, big on social media, smart dude. A guy named Chris Smith, who's a sergeant from D.C. I just met him that day, didn't know him from Adam. Wow, man, great dude. Learned so much from him, and we had so much fun bullshitting back and forth and war stories. And then a captain from Alexandria, Julia, I don't remember her last name, I'm sorry, but from Alexandria, Virginia. And she gave me a whole different perspective. Right. And it was funny, we had known each other through Twitter, but didn't really know each other. Yeah. And I didn't even know that was her until she friended me on Facebook. And I was like, oh, that's her. Yeah, okay, cool. But we talked a lot about fire stuff, and then some New England guys. Danny McCauley from Boston was standing there with us. We were picking each other's brains, and I love that. That's like
that's the best part of it.
And that's what you're going to love about FDIC, bro. I'll tell you all about it when we go off the air, all good and bad. But you meet these people and you pick their brains, and that's what young people need to do. Absolutely. And I'm old. I do it. I'm almost 50, and I know I'm at the twilight of my career for the most part, as much as I want to stay for a few more, but I'm still learning from them, and that's the key, man. And respect what you do. Yeah, respect the job. That Maltese Cross is earned. It's not given. you know. And the guys who wear that shit in the bar and then act like an asshole don't deserve to have it.
And you're representing your agency. You're representing
Absolutely.
us. When those guys you're talking about, and I know the guys you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
When you're drunk and you're wearing that, and you're representing all of us and all the good things we do.
And I'm not saying I've never been that guy.
No.
You know, I'm not preaching holier than thou, because I'm sure I've made big mistakes that way too. But
anyone that sits before anyone else and says they don't do that, come on.
Yeah.
You know, I told you before, it's all that self-actualization, looking in the mirror, being able to really critique yourself. You know, and being able to say, like, what have I done that I can make better in my life?
You represent your job, you represent your town, you represent your family.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
The back of my coat's got my dad's, basically his last name on it. When I do something, to me, I'm wearing that name. I don't want to tarnish that name. You know, my helmet, it's got Fire District 9 in the front of it. I don't want to tarnish what good that district has done.
Right.
You know, my kids, it's kind of funny. I look at my helmet. I got this little burnt up snowman thing on the front of my helmet. My daughter gave me that when she was 3. She came here like Christmas time and said, "Oh, Dad, here, I brought this for you. You know, I want you to keep it with you. Keep it in your pocket." And I said, "You know, if I put it in my pocket, it'll fall. I'll lose it one day." So I stuck it in my helmet.
It's on your lid, man. You always have it.
It's been there now. She's 16. And it's been there at least 13 years.
That's awesome.
And but what I do represents them, you know. And sometimes I've tarnished things, and I'm not proud of those. But you make it up, you do right, and you fix those things. And
it's never too late.
No. And the job gives you opportunities to keep doing good things.
It sure does.
And maybe that's one of the reasons I don't want to ever leave it. You know? So
Aaron, what was your best experience? Before I let you off the hot seat, you got to tell me what has been your best in the 29 years, man? What has been your best experience?
Man, dude, I don't know. I try to think of this stuff, and I really don't know. I think it's a kind of conglomeration of all the people I've met. I think it's the friendships, the people. The people. It's definitely the people. I will say the greatest probably training thing, most momentous in my career was training in Charleston. Yeah. I really do believe that we made a big difference there because they needed it, and we went in with the right attitude. But it's the people, man. I've met so many awesome people that, you know, it would be like ridiculous name dropping if I did that. Right. You know, but and I still do. Like I said, this weekend I met 3-4 more people I didn't know. To me, that's the highlight of the job. It's the people, and you do good.
I love it. Yeah, no, I love what you're saying. It's great.
Yeah,
I agree. It is the people.
I don't know that I had one big call that the epiphany moment at a call.
It doesn't have to be a call. Honestly, you're saying it doesn't have to be a call. I'm not looking for that. If you're telling me it's the people and the networking and the individuals you met, that's great.
I mean, I've been in some bad fires where I got scared and I learned.
Oh yeah.
and some bad rescues where I thought, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
But and I remember those. But
I remember being in the hallway and thinking, man, it's really hot.
Yeah.
More hot than I remember it being. Like, oh yeah, I don't have a hood on.
Oh yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it every time.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's it, man.
That's great.
It's the people.
Well, listen, bro, I appreciate you coming on our show, man.
Thank you.
It means so much to me.
Well, it's an honor to be asked to do something like this.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and once you're officially on the show, man, you're family forever. So
there you go.
I appreciate it. I got some gifts for you.
I appreciate it.
I got these new decals, reflective for your lid.
Nice, very cool. Yeah.
Decals.
Oh yeah.
And then Sal from Eagle Emblems and Graphics out of Staten Island.
Okay.
Right.
This
guy's good to me, man. He gives,
very cool.
Every one of my guests gets a patch.
Awesome. Well, that'll definitely go up in my office with the other stuff.
That's great,
sure.
man. I appreciate it.
It'll have a special place on the shelf for sure.
Well, it means a lot.
Excellent.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
So this episode was sponsored by Axehead Threads. Good guys. I mean, I'm telling you right now. I mean, check them out on Instagram. They're on
Absolutely, yeah.
They got a cool logo. Actually, this is their logo right here.
Nice.
It's a nice, some Irish in there.
Irish
in their logo.
You got to have that.
Yep. So, and then I also want to shout out someone pretty special to me. So this here, I don't know if you could see this, but Cap, I'm gonna show it to you.
Yeah. I was looking at that. Yeah.
So this
That's
here,
nice.
Right, was given to me by Chris Applegate, who's a firefighter in Manitou Park, and he also works with me in Hoff. Mm-hmm. Chris is the kind of kid that, he's always eager to see the next episode. He's always wanting to help. He actually came out and helped me with the interview that I did at Mitzvah.
Okay, yeah.
Which was
that was powerful stuff there.
It was a tough interview.
Powerful stuff.
But he came with me to that, and he helped with the camera and stuff. But this is the kid I just want to shout him out real quick because he gave this to me just the other day. And he's like, maybe if you wanted to put it on your show. There's no maybe about it. It's going to be on all my shows, on all my episodes. It's going to be out there. But I just wanted to tell you, when you talk about the people, that's literally what drew me to it. So the people that are out there helping you, getting you, and Chris was one of those kids that wanted to help out and put that out there. So your episode was the one that the first episode for Chris Applegate. So
this kind of platform, guys that are doing this and doing it the right way and honorably and respectfully, it's a home run. You guys are getting stuff done that we didn't have this, man. It's awesome. Right. It's awesome.
I appreciate it. And again, my message is clear. It's just to bring, one, I want to bring awareness to PTSD in the fire service and PTS.
Yeah.
And then also culturally and tradition, man. Talking to the senior guys. 29 years, man. You have a lot to offer, brother.
I think so.
And you're humble, and I get it. Yeah. But you do. You have a lot to offer, and it was an honor to have you on.
Thank you.
All right, keep a lookout. We got episode 17 coming out. You're going to see who that is shortly. Be sure to check out our Instagram. We just kind of updated some stuff on that. And our website, which actually is like a website from 2019. So you can check that out too. It's www.pintheq.com. All right, stay safe, be careful, and look out for each other.